I met Sophia at a friend's wedding 2 years ago. Her confidence captivated me instantly, and our connection felt like something from a movie. After dating for 2 years, I thought this Christmas would be perfect to propose, finally joining her family circle. I spent weeks choosing thoughtful gifts for her parents and found a vintage emerald ring I knew she would love. Then came those words I never expected: "I cannot bring you to Christmas. My ex is coming, and it will be awkward." Before I tell you how my holiday dreams shattered and the unexpected path my life took afterward, let me know where you are watching from in the comments. Hit that subscribe button if you want more stories about finding self-respect when someone takes you for granted. I have always been proud of building my life from scratch. Growing up in a blue-collar neighborhood in Chicago, I worked my way through college and eventually secured a position as an architectural engineer at one of the top firms in the city. My parents taught me the value of hard work and integrity, lessons I carried into every relationship. When I first spotted Sophia across the reception hall at my college roommate's wedding, I was immediately drawn to her. She stood confidently in a deep blue dress, laughing with friends, exuding a warmth that seemed to light up the room. After working up the courage to introduce myself, our conversation flowed effortlessly for hours. By the end of the night, I knew she was special. Our relationship progressed rapidly. Sophia worked as a marketing executive for a luxury brand, and her creative perspective complemented my more analytical approach to life. We moved in together after just 1 year, merging our lives in a downtown apartment with a view of the city skyline that I negotiated through industry connections. Looking back, I should have noticed the imbalance early on. While Sophia had met my parents numerous times and joined us for holidays and random Sunday dinners, I had barely any interaction with her family. There was always some reason why the timing was not right. They were traveling. They were renovating their house. Her mother was feeling under the weather, or some other convenient excuse. "My parents are pretty private people," Sophia would explain with a dismissive wave. "They are not really big on meeting my partners until things are serious." After a year and a half together, I gently pointed out that sharing an apartment seemed pretty serious to me. She finally conceded and arranged a dinner at an upscale restaurant downtown. The evening was brief and formal, nothing like the warm, extended family gatherings I was accustomed to with my own parents. I noticed something odd that night. Sophia seemed different around her parents, more reserved and formal. The conversation stayed frustratingly surface level. Her father, a literature professor at a prestigious university, spoke mostly about academic matters. Her mother, a successful jewelry artist, asked polite questions about my work, but changed the subject when I tried to learn more about her craft, despite my genuine interest. When we left, I asked Sophia why she had seemed so distant. "That is just how we are as a family," she said. "Not everyone has the Brady Bunch dynamic you grew up with." I let it go, attributing the awkwardness to first meeting jitters and different family cultures. As our second Christmas together approached, things in my professional life were soaring. I had just landed a major promotion after successfully leading the design of a sustainable office complex that had received industry recognition. The timing felt perfect to take our relationship to the next level. I started planning what I believed would be the perfect proposal. Sophia had once mentioned loving vintage jewelry, particularly emeralds, because they reminded her of her grandmother. I spent weeks visiting specialty jewelers until I found the perfect ring, a 1,920 seconds, emerald surrounded by small diamonds, in a platinum setting. For her parents, I wanted gifts that showed I had paid attention to who they were. For her father, I located a rare first edition book of poetry he had mentioned in our brief meeting. For her mother, I commissioned a handcrafted leather case for her jewelry, tools from an artisan I had worked with on a building project. I requested time off work, booked flights to her hometown, and reserved a hotel room, planning to ask for her father's blessing before proposing on Christmas Eve. The whole plan was set, and I could already envision our future together, perhaps starting our own holiday traditions while blending our families. The evening before, I planned to surprise Sophia with the Christmas visit details. I prepared her favorite dinner, homemade pasta with truffle sauce, and the expensive Bordeaux she loved. I noticed she seemed distracted, as she picked at her food, checking her phone more than usual. "Everything okay?" I asked, refilling her wine glass. She set her phone down and took a deep breath. "Actually, Trevor, I've been meaning to tell you something about Christmas." "What a coincidence." I smiled. "I have Christmas plans to discuss too." "Well, mine might affect yours," she said, not meeting my eyes. "I cannot bring you to Christmas this year. My ex is coming, and it will be awkward." The words hit me like a physical blow. I set down my fork, certain I had misheard. "Your ex. At your family Christmas. Mark has always spent Christmas with us," she explained, as if this were the most normal arrangement in the world. "His parents live overseas, and he has been joining our family holidays since college. And you are just mentioning this now." After 2 years together, I could feel my carefully planned world starting to crack. I did not think it was relevant. Until now, she replied, her voice rising defensively. "I knew you would make it into a bigger deal than it is." I sat in stunned silence, trying to process what I was hearing. For 2 years, through countless conversations about our pasts, our families, and our traditions, Sophia had never once mentioned that her ex-boyfriend remained a fixture at her family gatherings. "Let me get this straight," I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. "Your ex-boyfriend has been attending your family Christmas every year, even during the 2 years we have been together, and you never thought to mention this." Sophia sighed, pushing her barely touched pasta around her plate. "Mark and I broke up 5 years ago, but he stayed close with my family. My parents kind of consider him part of the extended family at this point, and that did not seem like something I should know about." I asked, feeling a cold sensation spreading through my chest. "It just never came up naturally," she replied with a shrug that made my heart sink further. "Besides, I knew you would not understand. You and your family are so traditional." As we continued talking, more painful truths emerged. Through careful questioning, I learned that Mark had not only been present at family Christmases, but also birthdays, summer barbecues, and even the weekend before our brief dinner with her parents. The dinner that had been so short because they had plans to meet Mark for drinks afterward. "So your parents know Mark well?" I asked, already suspecting the answer. "Well, yes. They have known him since our sophomore year of college, and they prefer him to me." The question hung in the air. Sophia's hesitation before answering told me everything. They are just more comfortable with him. He knows all their friends, their routines. It would be awkward to suddenly bring someone new. "Someone new, Sophia. We have been together for 2 years. We live together." I reminded her, my voice breaking slightly. "I know, but family Christmas is different. There are traditions, inside jokes." "You would feel out of place," she said, as if she were doing me a favor by excluding me. The realization crashed over me. I had been planning a future with someone who did not see me in hers. At least, not in any meaningful way. All those canceled weekend visits to her parents suddenly made sense. The excuses about her mother's migraines or her father's busy schedule were convenient fictions. "You know, I actually had Christmas plans for us," I said quietly, reaching into my jacket pocket and placing the small velvet box on the table. Her eyes widened as I opened it, revealing the vintage emerald ring. "Trevor," she whispered. Without responding, I went to our bedroom closet and returned with the carefully wrapped gifts for her parents. I placed them beside the ring. "I thought this Christmas would be perfect to propose to officially become part of your family." Tears formed in her eyes, but her response shattered any remaining hope. "That is beautiful, Trevor, but you are overreacting about the Christmas thing. We can do our own Christmas celebration after the holiday. It does not have to be such a big deal." In that moment, I saw our entire relationship clearly. Every time I had tried to integrate our lives more fully, Sophia had maintained a careful distance. Every time her family needed something, our plans would change without discussion. I had been a convenient companion, but never a priority. That night, lying awake, while Sophia slept beside me, I reviewed countless memories with new understanding. The weekend trips to see my parents, that she often canceled at the last minute. The family photos where she always seemed reluctant to be included. The way she kept our relationship off her social media, citing privacy concerns. By morning, I knew what I had to do despite the pain clawing at my chest. "Do you actually see a future with me, Sophia?" I asked, as we sat with our morning coffee. "A real future where I am a priority in your life, equal to your family and certainly above your ex." She looked surprised by the directness of my question. "Of course I see a future. Why do you think I moved in with you?" "That is not what I asked," I said calmly. "Am I a priority to you? Would you ever choose me over what your family wants?" Her long pause and eventual non-answer told me everything. "Why does it have to be a competition? Why cannot I have both?" "It is not about competition," I explained. "It is about knowing your partner has your back, that they consider you family too." By that afternoon, I had contacted a friend about staying at his place temporarily. By evening, I had packed essential belongings. The decision to leave was the hardest I had ever made, but staying would have meant accepting that I would always be secondary in her life. "You are really leaving over this?" Sophia asked incredulously as I packed my suitcase. "Over one Christmas, no," I said softly. "I am leaving because I finally see that there is no place for me in your real life, the one that includes your family and apparently your ex. I deserve someone who is proud to include me in every aspect of their world." I left the engagement ring on the counter, but packed the gifts for her parents. Later, I mailed them with a brief note, explaining that I had selected them with care, hoping to become part of their family. I wished them well. The Christmas I had so meticulously planned became the loneliest of my life. Instead of proposing in front of Sophia's family tree, I found myself in my childhood bedroom at my parents' house in Chicago, trying to explain my sudden appearance without dampening the holiday spirit. "Sometimes things do not work out the way we plan, honey," my mother said, pulling me into a hug that smelled of cinnamon and comfort. "But you always have a home here." My father never won for many words, simply clapped my shoulder and said, "Her loss, son." Their unwavering support helped, but could not fully ease the hollow ache in my chest. Returning to work after the holidays was both a blessing and a curse. The familiar routines offered distraction, but colleagues' innocent questions about my time off reopened wounds that had barely begun to scab over. "How was the big Christmas with the girlfriend's family?" my project manager asked cheerfully. "Change of plans," I replied, simply immersing myself in blueprints to avoid further questions. To my surprise, my colleagues noticed my distress despite my attempts to hide it. Marcus, a senior architect I had always respected but rarely socialized with, invited me for drinks after noticing I had been working until 9 every night. "Work is not going to fill whatever is empty right now," he said bluntly over beers. "Trust me, I tried that route after my divorce." His honesty cracked something open in me, and for the first time I shared the full story with someone outside my family. Marcus introduced me to his Friday basketball group, giving me something to look forward to besides work and my temporary bedroom at my friend's apartment. Meanwhile, Sophia's messages ranged from angry accusations to tearful pleas. "You are being completely unreasonable," she texted the day after I left. "A week later, my parents asked about you at Christmas. See, they do care." Then finally, "I miss you. Cannot we at least talk about this?" Each message tempted me to respond, to try again, but I maintained radio silence, knowing communication would only prolong the pain. Instead, I channeled my energy into a new project at work, designing a community center for an underserved neighborhood. The project became my lifeline. Unlike the luxury condos and corporate offices that usually crossed my desk, this building would serve real needs: after-school programs, job training, health services. The purpose behind the work filled some of the emptiness inside me. I also started therapy, something I had always respected in theory, but never pursued. My therapist helped me recognize patterns, how I consistently gave more in relationships than I received, how I mistook emotional unavailability for independence. You built a relationship with the person you hoped, Sophia, would become my therapist. Observed not with who she actually was. Physical activity became another form of therapy. On Marcus's recommendation, I joined a rock climbing gym. The focus required to scale walls left no mental space for ruminating on what might have been. The community there was welcoming, with no preconceptions about who I was or questions about my relationship status. 3 months after the breakup, I was presenting initial designs for the community center to neighborhood stakeholders when I first met Madison. Unlike most community representatives who focused solely on budget concerns, she asked thoughtful questions about how the spaces would actually function for users. "The multipurpose room looks great on paper," she challenged. "But where will people store their projects between classes? Where will instructors prepare?" Her practical insights impressed me, and I found myself redesigning several spaces based on her suggestions. After the meeting, I asked if she would be willing to provide more input as the project developed. "Only if you are actually going to listen," she replied, with a directness I found refreshing. I have sat through too many community input sessions that were just for show. Our professional relationship gradually evolved into friendship. Madison worked as an elementary school teacher by day and community advocate by night. Her passion for her neighborhood was contagious, and I found myself looking forward to our project meetings more than any other part of my week. Unlike my relationship with Sophia, where I had always felt I needed to impress her with reservations at exclusive restaurants or connections to VIP events, Madison was content grabbing street tacos after meetings or walking through the Bresson neighborhood, as she pointed out both challenges and opportunities. It was during this period of rebuilding that I received an unexpected email that shook my new foundation. Sophia's father had somehow obtained my work email address. "Trevor," he wrote, "I finally opened your thoughtful gift last week. The Frost First Edition is remarkable, and I was deeply moved by your note. I want you to know that Sophia never fully explained your relationship to us. We had no idea you had been together for 2 years or that you were living together. We certainly never preferred Mark's company, and were actually quite surprised when she brought him to Christmas instead of you. I cannot speak for my daughter's choices, but I want you to know that her mother and I would have welcomed you wholeheartedly had we understood the nature of your relationship." The email left me reeling. All this time I had assumed her parents had rejected me, when in reality, Sophia had never given them the chance to know me. She had compartmentalized her life so completely that her parents had no idea of my significance. After careful consideration, I replied simply, "Thank you for reaching out. Your message brings some closure to a painful chapter. I wish your family well." Then I closed that door for good, focusing instead on the new life I was building. 6 months after that fateful pre-Christmas dinner, I found myself in a place I could never have imagined. The community center project was progressing beautifully, incorporating ideas from local residents that made it truly responsive to neighborhood needs. I had moved into my own apartment, decorated sparsely but intentionally with items that brought me joy rather than impressed visitors. And somewhat to my surprise, I was dating Madison. Our transition from colleagues to friends to something more had happened naturally, without the whirlwind intensity of my beginning with Sophia. Instead, our relationship built slowly on a foundation of mutual respect and genuine interest in each other's lives. When Madison invited me to her family's Memorial Day barbecue, after just 2 months of dating, I was touched but hesitant. "Are you sure it is not too soon?" I asked, memories of Sophia's resistance still fresh. Madison looked confused. "Why would it be too soon? My parents have heard me talk about you for months through the community center project. They are curious to meet the architect I cannot stop mentioning." The contrast between her easy inclusion and my previous experience was stark. At the barbecue, Madison's parents welcomed me with genuine warmth. Her father proudly showed me his woodworking shop while her mother insisted I take home leftovers. There was no formality, no sense that I needed to prove myself worthy of their daughter. It was at a professional networking event downtown that I unexpectedly ran into Sophia for the first time since our breakup. She looked thinner, her usual confident stance replaced with something more hesitant. When our eyes met across the room, I felt a dull ache rather than the sharp pain I had expected. "Trevor," she said, approaching cautiously. "You look well." "So do you," I replied, meaning it, despite noticing the shadows under her eyes. After awkward small talk about work, she took a deep breath. "Mark and I broke up shortly after Christmas. It turns out we wanted different things." I nodded, unsure what response she expected. "I handled everything wrong with us," she continued. "I was scared of fully committing, so I kept you separated from my family as a way of maintaining control. I used Mark and my family's comfort as an excuse, because I was afraid. Afraid of what I asked. Afraid that if I fully let you in, let us become what you wanted us to be, I might lose myself," she admitted. "But in trying to avoid that, I lost you instead." She touched my arm lightly. "I have done a lot of thinking. I have even started therapy. I think I could do better now. If you would consider giving us another chance." 6 months earlier, those words might have been exactly what I wanted to hear. But standing there looking at her, I realized I no longer felt the pull to rescue our relationship. "I am sorry things did not work out with Mark," I said gently, "and I appreciate your honesty. But I have moved forward, Sophia. I am seeing someone who values me enough to make me part of her whole life, from the beginning." Her eyes filled with tears. "I understand. I just wanted you to know that I recognize what I threw away." Later that night, I shared the encounter with Madison as we walked along the lakefront. Unlike Sophia, who would have been jealous or insecure, Madison listened thoughtfully. "Do you regret your decision to leave?" she asked directly, her hand still comfortably in mine. "Not for a second," I replied honestly. Meeting her today just confirmed that I made the right choice, valuing myself enough to walk away. Madison squeezed my hand. "Well, I am selfishly very glad you did." As the 1-year mark of that painful Christmas conversation approached, my life had transformed in ways I could never have predicted. The community center was nearing completion, already being hailed as a model for future neighborhood developments. My relationship with Madison had deepened into something more meaningful than I had ever experienced. The most significant change, however, was internal. I no longer measured my worth by how much I could give or sacrifice for a partner. I had learned to recognize when relationships were balanced and when they were not, to set boundaries and expect them to be respected. When Madison's family invited me to join them for Christmas that year, there was no hesitation on anyone's part. Her mother called personally to make sure I knew what time to arrive and ask about my favorite holiday foods. Her father emailed me about their tradition of ugly Christmas sweaters, so I could come prepared. The contrast to the previous year could not have been more profound. Instead of fighting for inclusion in someone else's family, I was being welcomed with open arms. Instead of planning an elaborate proposal to someone who kept me compartmentalized, I was building an authentic connection with someone who integrated me into every aspect of her life from the start. The lesson was clear: the right relationship does not require you to fight for basic inclusion. The right person is proud to have you by their side in all contexts, not just when convenient. Most importantly, I learned that walking away from someone who could not give me what I needed was not a failure, but an act of self-respect that ultimately led me to where I belonged. Have you ever had to walk away from someone you love to preserve your self-respect? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story helped you recognize your own worth, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about choosing yourself first. Remember to share this video with anyone who might need to hear that sometimes the best gifts come after the hardest goodbyes. Thank you for listening to my journey, and may you always have the courage to expect the love you truly deserve.